What would you do if the one message you prayed would never be real suddenly appeared on your phone at 2:13 a.m.? What would you do if a single file, one you didn't ask for, one you didn't expect, one you never imagined even existed, claimed to show the person you love most in the world doing something so unthinkable, so explosive, so reputation-ending with your own uncle? And what if the person who sent it wasn't an enemy, wasn't a troll, wasn't some anonymous hater hiding behind a screen, but someone you once trusted, someone you once welcomed into your inner circle, someone your wife had sworn she cut off years ago? Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. That is exactly where Prince Harry found himself on that night. And it all started with one name flashing across his phone. Markus Anderson. The same Markus who opened the door to Meghan's pre-royal world. The same Markus who introduced her to high-influence social circuits. The same Markus who allegedly smoothed Meghan's path towards certain powerful rooms long before Harry ever appeared in the picture. The same Markus who was present for moments the public still knows nothing about. The same Markus who, without warning, vanished from the Sussex orbit. Only to resurface now, in the middle of the night, with one file and a message that would detonate the royal narrative like a bomb. People love to imagine royal drama as scripted, polished, well-managed. But what happens when something arrives that no PR machine can spin, no palace advisor can bury, no lawyer can stop? Harry wasn't ready for what was coming. He couldn't be, because the title of that file, the one Markus sent him, contained two names that should never appear in the same sentence. Meghan Markle and Andrew. Not a rumor, not a headline, a video. And that alone was enough to break Harry's breath. The seconds between receiving a message and deciding whether to open it can feel like hours when your whole life is built on secrets, half-truths, scandals, and the constant fear that something from the past will resurface. And Harry's life, despite the golden exterior of privilege, has always been haunted by the threat of things resurfacing. He stared at the screen. He didn't tap it. Not yet. Because the message attached said only 4 words. You need to know. No threats. No explanations. No emojis. Nothing to soften the blow. Nothing to provide context. Just those 4 words. And the strangest part? There was no anger in them. No gloating. No mockery. It was almost clinical. As if Markus wasn't warning him, wasn't attacking him, just informing him. That made it worse. Harry's mind immediately went into overdrive. Why now? Why Markus? Why would he be the one sending something this personal, this dangerous, this catastrophic? What did Markus gain? What did he want? What was the angle? Because Markus Anderson has never been the type of man to do something without a reason. If you know anything about Markus, then you know he is strategic, controlled, and always 10 steps ahead. Soho House power players don't move emotionally. They move tactically. They move with intent. They move when something bigger is in play. So before we go deeper, let's ask the most uncomfortable question. Why did Markus Anderson choose this moment in time to send Harry a video that could annihilate the Sussexes' public image, pulverize their marriage, and explode the already fractured relationship between Harry and the royal family? And why did it involve Prince Andrew, arguably the most scandal-contaminated figure in modern royal history? These are not coincidences. They are chess moves. And Harry, whether he realized it or not in that moment, had just been shoved into the center of the board. But here's the twist you might not expect. The story does not begin with Harry, or Meghan, or even Markus. It begins years earlier, long before royal weddings and Netflix deals and Oprah interviews. It begins in a world far more intimate, far more private, far more chaotic than the polished California facade suggests. A world Meghan thought she left behind. A world Harry barely knows. And a world Markus has never forgotten. But let's return to the moment that would define everything that followed. Harry finally tapped the message. The file didn't open instantly. It loaded slowly, painfully, like the universe was deliberately stretching his anxiety to its breaking point. His heart raced. His hands shook. His breath shortened. Because even before the first frame appeared, he sensed that his life would be divided into 2 eras, before Markus sent this and after. When the screen lit up, it wasn't what he expected. It wasn't explicit. Not at first. It wasn't even clear. It was grainy, dark, low resolution. It looked old, like something recorded on a device from another era. But the shadows, the shapes, the voices. One of the voices made him freeze. Because he recognized it. Not Meghan's. Not Andrew's. Someone else. Someone he never thought would be connected to any of this. His stomach dropped. His pulse flattened. His thoughts spiraled. Is this real? He whispered aloud, as if the room could answer him. He replayed the first few seconds again, squinting, analyzing, trying to decide whether he was being manipulated or warned, or both. Then Meghan entered the room. She was groggy, half asleep, confused. She asked him why he was awake, why he looked pale, why he wouldn't speak, why he was sweating. Harry didn't answer. He just turned the phone toward her. Her reaction was instant, too instant. Not shock, not outrage, not disbelief. She froze. And in that split second, Harry saw something he didn't expect to see in her eyes. Recognition. It was tiny, flickering, gone as quickly as it appeared. But it was there. And Harry knew her too well to pretend otherwise. She said the predictable lines. This is fake. This is edited. This is someone trying to destroy us. This is targeted harassment. You know how people are. You know how the palace operates. But her voice trembled. Just slightly. Harry wasn't angry yet. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't accusing. He was doing something far worse. He was thinking. Because Meghan had told him for years that Marcus was dead to her. That they no longer spoke. That he was untrustworthy, disloyal, manipulative. She claimed she cut him out for good. She claimed he didn't know anything relevant. She claimed he wasn't a threat. And now, Marcus was the one sending the most devastating file Harry had ever seen. Was that coincidence? Or betrayal? Harry asked her. She didn't answer. She just kept repeating that the video wasn't real. But here's something most people don't understand about Meghan. She is excellent under pressure. She can cry on cue. She can charm when needed. She can redirect any conversation. She has a gift for controlling a room. But this time, she couldn't control Harry. Not immediately. Not after hearing that voice. Not after seeing that shadow. Not after noticing something familiar in the background. Something he had seen once at a royal residence. That was the moment he knew this wasn't a simple smear attempt. Something bigger was happening. And Marcus was only the beginning. But before Harry could process any of it, before he could question Meghan, question Marcus, question the video, his phone buzzed again. Another message. Same sender. This time, it contained only 3 words. Watch it all. Harry's heart dropped again. Because if the first 30 seconds were enough to make him panic. What was in the rest of the video? And why did Marcus sound almost calm, like he wasn't trying to provoke, but preparing Harry for something unavoidable? Before Harry could react, before he could press play again, before he could confront Meghan or throw the phone across the room or call someone for help, another alert appeared. A second file. A second message. A second bomb. And this one was labeled with something that chilled Harry even more than Meghan's name. A date. A date from years before he met her. A date he didn't know meant anything. A date Meghan never told him about. A date that connected her not only to Marcus, not only to Andrew, but to someone Harry trusted, someone Harry loved, someone Harry had defended publicly, and someone whose involvement would shatter the last illusions he had about his life. But before we get to that, before we get to the real reason this video was sent, before we get to the mastermind behind it, before we uncover what Meghan knew, what she hid, what Marcus wanted, what the palace feared, there is one truth you need to understand. This scandal was not an accident. It was not random. It was not spontaneous. It was planned, calculated, engineered, years in the making. And the video was not the first shot. It was the final warning. A warning Harry ignored until it was too late. Because by the time he opened the second file, by the time he realized what Marcus was actually doing, by the time he understood the true purpose of these messages, it wasn't just his marriage at stake. It wasn't just Meghan's reputation. It wasn't just Andrew's past. It wasn't even about the Sussex brand. It was about the monarchy itself. And the person who triggered all of this wasn't Marcus, or Meghan, or Andrew. It was someone else entirely. And Harry, trembling with the phone in his hand, had no idea that the nightmare he'd just stepped into was only the first layer. Because the moment he pressed play again, everything changed. And what came next would unravel every lie, every secret, every hidden alliance. And no one in the royal world was prepared for the fallout. Have you ever noticed that the most life-changing messages never arrive at convenient hours? They never show up at noon, when the sun is bright and your mind is clear. They don't come when you're surrounded by people who can help you think rationally. No, disasters always strike at night. The darkest secrets always surface when the world is asleep. And that's exactly why Harry's nightmare began at 2:13 a.m. Because nothing this explosive could ever arrive in daylight. Things like this demand shadows. So here's the real question. Why did Markus Anderson choose that night? Not the day before. Not a week earlier. Not after some argument or scandal. Why that exact minute, that exact hour, that exact moment when Harry was most vulnerable? You see, the answer is far more strategic and far more disturbing than you'd expect. Because Markus has never been impulsive. Everything he does has layers. Everything is coordinated. Everything is planned. So the timing wasn't random. The timing was a very specific message. Think about it. Markus knew Harry's routines, knew his patterns, knew when he slept, when he drank, when he spiraled, when he was alone, when Meghan disappeared into her separate wing of the Montecito house to reset her energy, as she liked to call it. Markus knew when Meghan wasn't next to him. He knew when Harry would be at his weakest. He knew exactly when to strike a nerve that had been quietly pulsing for years. And that night, Harry wasn't sleeping well. He hadn't been sleeping well for weeks. Something had been shifting, subtly, silently. In his marriage, you ever feel tension in a room you can't quite explain? You ever sense someone is hiding something but can't point to evidence? That was Harry. Meghan had grown colder, more distracted, her phone glued to her hand, unread messages piling up between them, constant tension disguised as exhaustion. Their home had become two people living separate emotional lives while pretending publicly to be a united front. Markus knew this. Because Markus had always known how to read Meghan better than almost anyone else. And that's the part Harry hated most. He hated that Markus knew the version of Meghan that existed before the royal title, before the global fame, before the PR polish. He hated that Markus was woven into the chapters of Meghan's life she promised were irrelevant. He hated that Markus had connections, stories, memories, and access Harry would never be able to erase. So when Harry saw his name on the screen, he didn't just feel shock. He felt dread. That stomach-dropping, chest-tightening dread that comes when the past refuses to stay buried. But let's dig deeper. Because the truth is, Markus had been quiet for years. Not a whisper. Not a sighting. Not a casual like on Instagram. Nothing. Total silence. Almost too much silence. Suspicious silence. And whenever someone goes silent in a drama-filled circle, it usually means they're either plotting or waiting. And Markus was waiting for something. For a catalyst. For a shift in the Sussex orbit. For the moment Meghan's protection around herself weakened. What changed? Something subtle. Something Harry didn't recognize immediately. Meghan's relationship with Markus didn't end because of some harmless disagreement. It ended because Meghan cut him off. Hard. Publicly. Emotionally. Strategically. She closed the door and threw away the key. But Markus never forgot that. People like Markus don't forget being cut out. People like Markus don't forgive being replaced. People like Markus don't tolerate being erased from a storyline they believe they created. You think Meghan made all her connections alone? You think she built her path to powerful hands and exclusive rooms without assistance? Markus knew the truth, and he knew how much she wanted that truth to disappear. So when he resurfaced, he didn't return with a hello. He returned with a weapon. The question is, why now? Let's rewind that night. Harry had been tossing in bed, staring at the ceiling, suffocating in old anxiety. Meghan wasn't next to him. She had been sleeping in a separate room for days, claiming she needed mental clarity before their next project commitments. Harry pretended to understand, but deep down, he felt rejected, isolated, disconnected. And loneliness changes a person. Loneliness erodes judgment. Loneliness creates cracks. And Markus knew cracks were the best entry points. So at 2:13 a.m., right when Harry reached the low point of that night, right when he picked up his phone to distract himself, Markus struck. One vibration, one notification, one name from a past Meghan insisted never mattered. Markus didn't choose 2:13 a.m. by mistake. He chose that moment because he wanted Harry alone. He wanted Harry unguarded. He wanted the message to land when Harry had no one to filter the shock. No advisors, No aides. No PR buffers. Not even Meghan. Just Harry and the cold glow of a screen. And Markus knew something else. Harry doesn't ignore messages at night. Trauma has turned him into a night checker. Someone who scans his phone compulsively. Someone who cannot let notifications sit. Someone who panics when messages pile up. And Markus knew that, too. Because Harry once confided that pattern to Meghan. And Meghan, years earlier, confided nearly every detail of Harry's vulnerable habits to Markus. So when Harry's screen lit up, he didn't silence it. He didn't roll over. He didn't think twice. He unlocked it immediately. And when he saw the file, titled in a way that made his heart rupture, the first thing Harry felt was nausea. Because titles don't lie. And this one was devastating. But here's where things get even more twisted. Before sending that message, Markus had spent weeks preparing the ground. He had resurfaced quietly in certain circles, sitting in familiar lounges, whispering to familiar faces, sending subtle signals through people who still owed him favors. He didn't message Harry impulsively. He didn't send that file to hurt him randomly. He wanted Harry to feel cornered, unsteady, suspicious, because destabilizing someone emotionally is the first step in extracting truth. This wasn't revenge. This was strategy. And Meghan was the key. But let's step back one layer deeper. Because there was something else happening behind the scenes. Something Harry didn't know about at the time. Markus wasn't acting alone. Someone had contacted him. Someone with influence. Someone with a reason to ignite this scandal. Someone who wanted the Sussexes destabilized. Someone who had access to files that should have been destroyed long ago. Someone who needed Harry to see this video, but needed it to come from a person Harry would believe, or at least consider. Ask yourself this. If an enemy sent Harry something like this, would he have opened it? Would he have trusted it? Would he have watched it long enough for the damage to sink in? Probably not. But if it came from Markus, the one person Meghan could never fully deny knowing, the one person whose history with her was deep, messy, and complicated, Harry would feel forced to take it seriously. Markus wasn't just the messenger. He was the perfect messenger. He had just enough credibility, just enough history, just enough proximity to Meghan's past. So why that night? Why that timing? Why when Meghan wasn't there? Because Harry was already suspicious, already hurt, already questioning, already drifting mentally. Markus didn't create the damage. He exploited what was already cracking beneath the surface. Let's be honest, Harry had been feeling left out for months. Meghan's schedule dominated the house. Project meetings, strategy calls, quiet time, boundaries, personal space, more personal space, endless personal space. And Harry had been trying to respect it, trying to be a supportive partner, trying to pretend he didn't feel pushed aside. But Markus knew. He always knew. And he acted precisely when the emotional tide was lowest. So when the file opened, when the shadows on the screen began to move, when the voice he recognized whispered something he never expected to hear, Harry didn't just feel fear. He felt vindication. Because deep down, very deep down, Harry had been sensing that something from Meghan's past was being hidden from him. Something big. Something she made sure never reached him. Something she thought was gone forever. But Markus had it. And he dropped it at Harry's feet like a grenade. But here's the real twist. The video wasn't the point. The video was only the bait. The real goal was what the video would make Harry do next. Markus didn't want to destroy Harry. Not exactly. He wanted to force Harry into motion. Into confrontation. Into panic. Into reaching for answers. Markus wanted the chain reaction. And that chain reaction would lead Harry straight into the truth. Because the video wasn't the last message. It wasn't even the most important one. It was only the door. And once Harry stepped through it, the real story, the deeper, darker, more explosive story, began to unfold. Because when he pressed play again, what he heard wasn't Meghan. What he saw wasn't Andrew. What he recognized wasn't the location. It was something else entirely. Something worse. Something that would drag William into the chaos. Something that would expose old royal wounds. Something that would show Harry that Markus had more than one file. And Harry had no idea what was coming next. Have you ever pressed play on something you knew would ruin you? That moment when your finger hovers above the screen and your brain screams stop, but curiosity, fear, and adrenaline fuse into something reckless enough to push you forward anyway? That's exactly where Harry was. Frozen, terrified, and yet unable to pull back. Because when you're confronted with the possibility that someone you love may have betrayed you, the most dangerous thing isn't the truth, it's not knowing. The second Harry pressed play, the room around him disappeared. The silence became heavier. The air felt colder. Every instinct in his body begged him to throw the phone across the room. Pretend he never saw the message. Pretend Marcus had never resurfaced. Pretend that file wasn't real. But he couldn't. Because the moment the video flickered onto the screen, something far more sinister happened. It didn't look like a modern recording. It didn't have the crisp clarity of today's cameras. It was grainy, washed out, unstable. A shaky frame, the kind of quality you'd expect from a hidden device or an old phone. And that alone made Harry's heart start hammering even harder. Because old recordings carry one terrifying implication. They were never meant to be found. The screen was dark, too dark. A dim yellowish light flickered in the background, casting warped shadows on a wall. Harry leaned closer, trying to make out shapes, outlines, anything that could anchor what he was seeing. But the camera kept shifting slightly, like it had been placed behind an object, maybe a lamp, maybe a vase, maybe a piece of furniture, capturing things secretly. And then a voice emerged. A man's voice. Soft, low, slurred. A familiar tone layered with an accent Harry knew better than he wished he did. A voice that made Harry's blood run cold. He recognized it instantly. His uncle, Prince Andrew. He didn't want it to be Andrew. He didn't want to believe it. He didn't want to accept that this was real. But the cadence, the way he dragged certain sounds, the subtle nasal quality, it was unmistakable. Harry's hands began trembling. He paused the video immediately, rewound it 2 seconds, listened again. That voice. It was Andrew. He wasn't visible yet, but he was there, off-screen, muttering something Harry couldn't fully decipher. But why would Andrew be in the same space as the woman he now loved? Why would a recording like this exist? Why would Marcus have it? Why would he send it? And more importantly, why was Meghan connected to it? Harry swallowed hard and pressed play again. This time, a silhouette appeared. A woman's silhouette, walking into view for a moment before disappearing again. Harry's throat tightened. His mind instantly jumped to Meghan. His heart told him no. His fear told him yes. His denial screamed impossible. But the shape, the hair, the movement, it looked like her. Or at least enough like her to trigger panic. He watched the figure cross the frame again. This time more clearly, the side of the woman's face catching a sliver of light. Her features weren't perfectly visible, but the outline was sickeningly familiar. Could it be her? Was it her? Was Marcus sending Harry destruction wrapped in ambiguity? Harry zoomed, paused, zoomed again. But the more he zoomed, the blurrier it became. Which raises the real question. Was that intentional? Was the video designed to be just clear enough to cause doubt, but never clear enough to confirm anything? A psychological weapon. A blade made of suggestion rather than proof. Harry pressed play again. And then it happened. A single line. A single voice. A single moment that ripped through his spine like ice. The woman in the video said something. One phrase. One name. Not Meghan. Not her full name. Her old alias. The alias she told Harry she used only once. The alias she claimed was nothing more than a silly nickname. The alias Harry didn't even think she remembered. And yet here it was, spoken on a recording tied to Prince Andrew. Harry's heart stopped. Because aliases don't appear in video files by coincidence. Aliases have context. Aliases come from situations with meaning. Aliases attach to moments people want erased. And Meghan had never, not once, mentioned this. Why? What happened that night? How did Andrew fit into the story? Why was there a video? Why was Marcus the one who sent it? Why now? Harry's breathing grew shallow. His palms were sweating. His hands shook so hard, he almost dropped the device. He wanted to scream at Meghan. He wanted to demand answers. He wanted to run. But he forced himself to keep watching, because not knowing was worse. And then came the moment that changed everything. The camera angle shifted slightly, just enough to widen the frame. And that's when Harry noticed something that made his stomach twist violently. The room. The wallpaper pattern. The old wooden trim. The narrow window on the right side. Harry recognized it. It wasn't random. It wasn't just any place. It wasn't a club. It wasn't a hotel. It wasn't a private residence. It was, without any question, part of a royal property. A section of a residence only a few people had access to. A residence Andrew frequented. a residence Meghan had visited once. One time. Before she married Harry. Before the royal wedding. Before she had any official role. She told Harry the visit was brief, professional, innocent. But this video suggested otherwise. Harry paused again, shook his head violently, rubbed his forehead, stared at the screen as if staring harder could make it rewrite itself. It can't be her, he whispered to himself. It can't be. But the alias, the voice, the silhouette, the familiarity of the room, it all chipped away at his denial. And that's the exact moment Meghan appeared in the doorway. The real Meghan, in real time, groggy, confused, and irritated by the light. "What are you doing awake?" she asked, her tone soft at first. Harry didn't look up. He couldn't. She walked closer, saw the phone, saw the video frozen mid-frame. Her eyes widened, not in shock, but in recognition. That tiny flicker Harry had noticed earlier roared back into his memory. She had seen this before. She knew this existed. She knew exactly what this was. And in that moment, Harry felt something sharp inside him, something painful, snap. "Where did you get that?" Meghan whispered, her voice suddenly trembling. "Too much. Too fast. Markus." Of course she knew. Harry swallowed hard. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. Meghan's mouth opened, closed, opened again. She didn't answer. Instead, she said the one line people use when they're cornered. "It's fake." But her voice was too quick, too desperate, too strained. Harry replayed the clip, this time with Meghan standing behind him. She flinched at the sound of Andrew's voice. She stepped back at the sound of her alias. Harry watched her reactions more carefully than he watched the screen. Then he asked her quietly, "Where were you that night?" Meghan froze. "Answer me," Harry said, his voice shaking. She didn't. She just reached for his phone, trying to pull it from his hand. He jerked it away instinctively. "Why didn't you tell me?" He repeated, louder this time. Meghan didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't collapse. Instead, she said something that made everything worse. "Harry, you don't understand. Those words. Those cursed words. The words people use when they're hiding something." Harry stared at her. "Then help me understand," he said. But Meghan didn't answer. She walked out of the room, and Harry was left alone again. Alone with his phone, alone with the video, alone with the shadow of a woman who might or might not be his wife, alone with the voice of the uncle he despised, alone with a file sent by the one man Meghan swore she cut off for life. But before Harry could make sense of any of it, before he could decide whether the video was real or doctored, before he could chase Meghan down the hallway, his phone buzzed again. A second file. A second message. From Markus. This one wasn't ambiguous. It wasn't vague. It wasn't subtle. It contained a single sentence. "You're looking in the wrong direction." Harry's heart lurched. Because if he wasn't supposed to focus on Meghan, and he wasn't supposed to focus on Andrew, then who was the real target? This question hit him so hard, he nearly dropped the phone. And then, just as he opened the second file, he heard a voice outside the bedroom door. Not Meghan's. Someone else's. Someone calling his name. Someone who should not have been in the house. And that's when Harry realized this wasn't just about a video. This wasn't just about his marriage. This wasn't just about the past. This was the beginning of something orchestrated, something coordinated, something far bigger. And someone had just stepped into the story, who was calling Harry's name from the hallway, who had walked into that house, into that moment, right as the second file arrived, who had Meghan let in without telling him, who was present in the Sussex home at almost 3 a.m, when this explosion had only just begun. Harry stepped toward the doorway, adrenaline surging through his chest, phone still in his hand, that second video file waiting to be opened like a loaded gun. The voice called again, lower this time, closer, like whoever it was had been invited, not intruding. "Harry." And when Harry stepped out into the hallway, the world tilted. Because standing there, dressed in casual travel clothes, eyes red from a long flight, was someone he never expected to see. Jessica Mulroney, Meghan's former best friend, her old Toronto confidant, her fixer, her gatekeeper, and the woman whose involvement in Meghan's transformation from actress to global figure has been whispered about for years, but never fully explained. Why was she here? Why now? Why at this exact hour? Everything inside Harry screamed that this was wrong. Jessica wasn't supposed to be in Montecito. She wasn't supposed to be in their inner circle anymore. Meghan had claimed they'd had a falling out. Meghan had told him she distanced herself from Jessica. Meghan had insisted the friendship was over. So why was Jessica standing in their hallway, silent, tense, watching him like she already knew about the video? Harry stared at her. Jessica stared right back. Neither spoke, but the air between them was thick with secrets. Finally, Jessica broke the silence. She told me you saw it. Harry's stomach dropped. You knew? He asked. Jessica's jaw tightened, not in guilt, but in frustration, as if she felt pulled into something she thought she'd escaped. I didn't want to be involved, she said. But Meghan called me. She said Markus sent you something. She said you'd panic. She said you wouldn't understand. Harry nearly laughed. Dark, bitter. Understand what? Jessica hesitated. A flicker of fear crossed her eyes. That alias. Harry cut her off. Why did she have it? Why was it in a video with my uncle? Why didn't she tell me anything? You could see Jessica calculating, choosing her words carefully, deciding how much to reveal, deciding how much danger she was in by being here at all. Then she said something that made Harry feel like the ground had dropped out from under him. She didn't tell you because she thought the alias was dead. Dead. Not obsolete. Not irrelevant. Not forgotten. Dead. Dead as in buried. Dead as in erased. Dead as in something that once served a purpose, and that purpose had ended violently. Harry felt something twist inside him. The alias. The video. Markus. Andrew. Jessica showing up at exactly the wrong moment. It all pointed to one undeniable truth. He was only seeing the surface. Jessica motioned toward the living room. We can't talk here. Meghan will hear us. That line hit Harry harder than anything else she'd said. Because if Meghan couldn't hear them, then Jessica wasn't here to help Meghan. She was here to help Harry. Harry followed her, reluctantly, the phone still warm in his hand from all the shaking. Jessica sat down on the edge of the sofa, arms folded tight, staring at the floor like she was being forced to revisit a nightmare. Tell me what's going on, Harry demanded. Jessica let out a long, shaky exhale. First, you need to know the alias wasn't something Meghan used casually. She didn't pick it because it sounded cute or mysterious. That name, it meant something. It was tied to something she did, something she was part of, something that wasn't supposed to touch her life ever again once she moved to London. Harry felt cold. And what exactly was she part of? Jessica didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked up at him with eyes heavy with regret. Harry, you married a woman who reinvented herself. Entirely. Completely. She didn't just move countries. She didn't just change her life. She erased an older one. And Markus, he was part of that. He helped her step out of the old world. And he helped her step into the new one. Harry blinked. What does that have to do with my uncle? Jessica swallowed hard. Because the alias wasn't used with Andrew. That sentence flipped everything. What do you mean? Harry asked. Jessica leaned forward, lowering her voice. The video Markus sent you, whatever it looks like, whatever it sounds like, was never meant to tie Meghan to Andrew. The alias belonged to another man entirely. Harry felt dizzy. Then why is Andrew in the video? Because someone edited it, Jessica said. Someone who wanted to weaponize Meghan's past to hit the monarchy where it hurts. But the original video, the unedited one, didn't involve Andrew at all. This contradicted everything Harry had assumed, but it also matched Markus' last message. You're looking in the wrong direction. Harry sat down slowly, his head spinning. So the alias, who was it tied to? Jessica looked away, hesitating. Not out of uncertainty, but out of fear. Harry, do you really want the truth? Yes, he whispered. Jessica closed her eyes. The alias was used with a man Meghan met before she ever met you. A man who moved in elite circles. A man who attended quiet private gatherings with Soho House executives. A man Markus introduced her to long before you came into her life. Harry felt his pulse spike. Who was he? Jessica hesitated again. Someone with power, she murmured. Someone protected. Someone who can make videos vanish and reappear at will. Harry clenched his fists. Give me a name. She didn't. Instead, she said, he's still alive. That answer did not comfort Harry. At all. Jessica continued, her voice steadying, her expression growing more serious. The alias existed because Meghan needed to protect herself. Because she was in a room she shouldn't have been in, with people she shouldn't have trusted. Markus was supposed to protect her. He failed, and she walked away. But someone filmed it. Someone kept the footage. and someone eventually used it. Harry's breaths grew louder, shorter, angrier. "You're telling me Meghan was blackmailed?" he asked. Jessica shook her head. "Not blackmailed," observed. "Meghan was part of something that made her valuable. Not for sex, not for scandal, for influence. People saw potential in her. People wanted access through her. And the alias? Her shield," Jessica said. "A temporary identity for private gatherings. A name she could use that wouldn't touch her public life." Harry's stomach twisted. "But Andrew is not the man she used it with," Jessica said sharply. "The edited video is meant to make you think Meghan and Andrew were connected. They weren't. Not like that." Harry stared at her, searching her face for lies. Jessica leaned closer. "Harry, the real question isn't why Meghan used the alias. It's who brought the alias back. And why." Harry replayed the last 30 seconds of the video in his mind. The voice, the silhouette, the alias spoken softly, the location, the familiarity. Then he remembered the second file, the one he hadn't opened yet, the one Markus sent right before Jessica appeared. "You're looking in the wrong direction." Wrong direction, which meant Meghan wasn't the target. Andrew wasn't the target. The alias wasn't the target. Someone wanted Harry to panic. Someone wanted him to fight Meghan. Someone wanted the brothers divided again. Someone wanted Andrew dragged back into scandal. Someone wanted to destabilize something bigger. Jessica watched him, eyes narrowing as she studied his face. "You're starting to put it together," she said quietly. Harry whispered, "Someone wants to destroy the family." Jessica nodded. "And they're using Meghan's past to do it." Harry stood abruptly. "Then I need to know the full story. All of it. I need to know who she met. I need to know why the alias exists. I need to know what this video actually shows." Jessica's voice dropped again. "Harry, the second file Markus sent you? That one shows the truth." Harry froze. "What truth?" "The truth about the man behind the alias." That line hit him so hard he couldn't breathe. Because there was only one scenario worse than Meghan lying to him. The possibility that someone inside the royal orbit, someone close, someone trusted, someone protected, was involved in something far darker than anyone knew. Harry looked at his phone again. The second file stared back at him. Waiting. Jessica rose slowly. "Before you watch it, you need to prepare yourself." Harry's jaw tightened. "Prepare for what?" Jessica exhaled shakily. "For the moment you realize Markus wasn't the enemy." Harry felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Then who was?" he asked. Jessica met his eyes with a look so serious, so heavy, so fearful. Harry's blood turned to ice. "Someone who used Meghan. Someone who used Markus. Someone who used Andrew. Someone who used all of you. Someone who has been behind this from the beginning." Harry stepped back, his chest tightening. "Who?" he whispered. Jessica opened her mouth. But before she could answer, Harry's phone buzzed again. A new message. From Markus. This one contained only 2 words. "Watch. Now." And Harry, hand trembling, thumb hovering above the screen, realized the second file wasn't a continuation. It was a revelation. A revelation powerful enough to shatter everything he thought he knew. A revelation that would drag another royal into the crossfire. A revelation that would make the alias look insignificant. A revelation that would force Harry to confront the one truth he never wanted to face. And when he pressed play, what he saw next did not just shake him. It broke him. What do you do when the truth you've been bracing for turns out to be the wrong truth entirely? What do you do when the monster you've been preparing to confront isn't the one lurking in the dark? That's the moment Harry stepped into as he pressed play on the second file. His chest tight, his breathing unsteady, Jessica's warning still vibrating in the back of his skull. Because the last thing she said before Markus interrupted them was the one thing Harry couldn't afford to overlook. Markus wasn't the enemy. Those words repeated inside him with every heartbeat, like an echo trapped between panic and dread. Markus wasn't the enemy. Markus was the messenger. So who, exactly, was the architect? Who was orchestrating this? Who had access to these videos, these files, these shadows? Who had the motive, the power, the resources, and the arrogance to weaponize an alias Meghan thought was long dead? Those were the questions swirling in Harry's mind when the second video began to load. And the moment it played, Harry realized this file wasn't grainy. It wasn't dark. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't edited to provoke confusion. No, this file was sharp, detailed, deliberate. Whoever recorded it wanted clarity. Whoever filmed it wanted accuracy. Whoever captured it wanted the subject visible. The camera was steady. The lighting was intentional. The sound was clean. This wasn't a secret recording. This was surveillance. And the man at the center of the frame? Prince Andrew. Not a shadow. Not a voice off screen. Not a silhouette. Andrew in full view. Standing in a room Harry instantly recognized. It wasn't a residence this time. Not a palace guest suite. Not a private corridor. It was Andrew's personal office in London. Harry felt sick. Because Andrew wasn't alone. Someone else was in the video. Out of frame, just off camera, but close enough that their presence shifted the air. Andrew wasn't behaving casually. He wasn't relaxing. He wasn't joking or lounging or acting familiar. He was tense, nervous, sweating. Why? Because he wasn't the one in control. Harry leaned in as the audio sharpened. Andrew, I told you. I had nothing to do with that night. A man's voice answered, but the man wasn't visible yet. And the voice? Harry didn't recognize it. Not immediately. It wasn't Marcus. It wasn't anyone from Meghan's past, at least not anyone Harry had ever heard of. It wasn't someone who belonged in Andrew's circle. The voice was calm. Too calm. Controlled. Cold. The type of cold that made Harry instinctively tighten his grip around the phone. Unknown man. You weren't supposed to. She wasn't there for you. Harry froze. She? Meghan? His stomach twisted. But the man continued. Unknown man. The alias was for someone else. You were incidental. You were never supposed to be part of the capture. Capture. Harry felt the room tilt again. Capture? As in filming? Staging? Trapping? Andrew stepped forward, agitated. Andrew, then why is my voice on the recording? Why am I being tied to this at all? The unknown man gave a low, dark laugh. Unknown man. Because you walked into the wrong room at the wrong moment. And certain people found that useful. Harry's mind reeled. Useful? Andrew stumbling into something meant for someone else. Someone else Meghan met through Marcus? Someone protected? This was no longer the story Harry thought he was unraveling. This wasn't about Meghan and Andrew. This wasn't about an affair. This wasn't about betrayal. This was about surveillance, manipulation, power, and the exploitation of multiple people inside the monarchy at once. Andrew stepped closer to the camera, frantic now. Andrew, you need to destroy those files. The unknown man stepped into frame. And that's when Harry's breath left his body completely. Because the face he saw wasn't a stranger's. It wasn't someone from Meghan's past. It wasn't Marcus. It wasn't Andrew's assistant. It wasn't some unknown shadowy figure. It was a man Harry recognized. A man who had been close to the royal family for years. A man who operated quietly behind palace operations. A man who attended private briefings. A man trusted by Charles. A man who had been in the background of dozens of photos. A man Harry had spoken to more times than he could count. A palace advisor. A senior one. One of King Charles's most discreet and loyal strategists. Edward Beaumont. The man who handled internal crises. The man who erased scandals. The man who discreetly shut down stories before they could hurt the crown. The man who managed Andrew's damage control. The man who oversaw internal investigations. The man who, according to rumors, had access to files that never reached public knowledge. Harry's hands began shaking. Why was Beaumont in a video with Andrew? Why was he discussing Meghan's alias? Why was he calmly admitting the video was staged to capture someone else? Why did he talk like he was orchestrating it? Why did he look completely unafraid? Beaumont stepped even closer to Andrew, his eyes sharp and emotionless. Beaumont, you don't understand your position. You never have. That footage is leverage. And leverage must be preserved. Andrew's face turned pale. Andrew, leverage for what? Beaumont smiled. A small, frighteningly confident smile. Beaumont, for whatever we need it for. Harry's chest tightened. Jessica gasped under her breath. Harry felt the world inside him fracture. Because Beaumont wasn't talking about Meghan. He wasn't talking about Andrew. He wasn't talking about Marcus. He wasn't talking about the alias. He was talking about the monarchy. The entire monarchy, and the blackmail infrastructure built around protecting it. Andrew took a shaky breath. Andrew, you can't use that against me. You said it wasn't supposed to involve me. Beaumont, it wasn't. But it does. And you're more valuable compromised than innocent. Harry felt cold all over. More valuable compromised. It echoed in his mind like a bell tolling at the end of something sacred. Andrew wasn't being protected. He was being controlled, managed, used. And if Andrew, one of the Queen's sons, could be leveraged, what about Meghan? What about Harry? What about the video Markus sent? Harry felt sick. Beaumont continued. Beaumont, and if that woman ever tries to weaponize what she knows, we have enough footage to destroy her credibility. Harry's heart stopped. That woman. Meghan. Jessica's eyes widened. Harry stepped back, choking on dread. Andrew, you mean the American? Beaumont. She served her purpose. And she will again. Served her purpose. Used her. Manipulated her. Handled her. Watched her. Harry took another step back. His entire world was collapsing inside him. If Meghan wasn't the one being accused, if Andrew wasn't the one being accused, if Markus wasn't the villain, then Meghan's alias wasn't a scandal. It was bait. And Meghan wasn't the target. She was the tool, the pawn. Andrew's voice trembled. Andrew. And if Harry finds out? Beaumont shrugged. Beaumont. He won't understand what he's actually looking at. And if he does, no one will believe him. Harry staggered. Jessica covered her mouth. Because that sentence wasn't just cruel. It wasn't just manipulative. It wasn't just smug. It was calculated and devastatingly effective. Beaumont wasn't worried about exposure. He wasn't worried about backlash. He wasn't worried about Harry learning the truth. He was confident Harry could be silenced, or discredited, or ignored. He was confident the monarchy had built-in immunity against its own youngest son, and that meant something even darker. Beaumont had planned for Harry to find the video, because Harry was predictable, emotional, impulsive, and easy to manipulate. Jessica whispered, Harry, don't watch the rest. But Harry couldn't stop. Not now. Not after this. He pressed play again. Andrew stepped closer to Beaumont. Andrew, what about Markus? He's been asking questions. Beaumont's eyes narrowed. Beaumont, Markus is a variable, but a controllable one. Harry froze. Jessica froze. Beaumont continued. Beaumont. He will deliver what I need. And when he's finished, he won't interfere. A chill ran through Harry's entire body. Markus wasn't betraying Meghan. Markus wasn't warning Harry. Markus wasn't exposing anything out of revenge. Markus was being used. Used by Beaumont. Used by the palace. Used to manipulate Harry into a reaction. Into a spiral. Into a confrontation. Into exactly what was happening now. This wasn't about the past. This was about the present. This was about control. This was about destabilizing Meghan and Harry at the exact moment calculations required it. And then Beaumont said the one line Harry will never forget, because it wasn't meant for Andrew. It was meant for Harry. Beaumont. Once the boy panics, everything else will fall into place. The boy. Harry. Harry felt the entire world collapse. The second video ended. Silence. Cold, suffocating, final silence. Jessica looked at him. Harry looked at the carpet. His hands trembled violently. He had been manipulated. Meghan had been manipulated. Andrew had been manipulated. And Markus had been turned into a delivery system for a weaponized truth wrapped inside a lie. Harry whispered, They set me up. Jessica nodded slowly. And you walked right into it. Harry's breath shook. Why would Beaumont do this? Jessica hesitated. Because someone asked him to. Harry's voice cracked. Who? Jessica swallowed hard. The one person Beaumont answers to. Harry felt fear ignite in his chest. Raw. Consuming. Undeniable. Who? He demanded. Jessica stepped closer. Harry, he works for your father. Harry's breath stopped. His vision blurred. His entire world collapsed. And that was when a third file arrived. This one from an unknown number, with a single word attached. Next. Have you ever felt the universe pause? Not slow down, not freeze, but pause. That eerie, suffocating moment when reality feels too heavy, too sharp, too loud. And yet everything around you goes silent? That's exactly what happened to Harry when that third file arrived. His phone vibrated once. A cold, mechanical tremor. The screen lit up with an unfamiliar number. No name. No country code. No clue who sent it. Just a text containing one word that felt like a blade pressed against his throat. Next. Harry didn't tap it. He didn't even breathe. Because this wasn't Markus. This wasn't Jessica. This wasn't Beaumont. This was something, or someone new. Someone who shouldn't have his number. Someone operating outside the shadows he already knew. Someone who was watching the moment he finished the last video. How? How did they know the exact second the file ended? How did they know Harry was ready for the next step? How were they guiding this like a psychological maze with Harry trapped inside the center? Jessica moved closer. Harry, don't open it. Harry didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the word next, as if it were alive. As if it were breathing. As if it were waiting. Jessica reached for his wrist. Harry, look at me. This is bigger than you. Bigger than Meghan. Bigger than Andrew. You can't. Before she could finish, the phone rang. Not a text. A call. From that same unknown number. Harry's heart slammed against his ribs. His hand trembled. Jessica shook her head violently. Don't answer it. Harry, do not answer that call. But Harry wasn't listening anymore. Because that's when he heard it. A knock on the front door. A heavy one. Authoritative. Timed perfectly with the call, like someone was orchestrating this moment from two directions at once. Jessica went pale. Harry, who did Meghan let into this house? Harry took a slow step toward the door. Then another. The phone continued ringing in his hand. Each vibration felt like another push toward something he was not ready to face. When he reached the foyer, he hesitated. Knock. 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 Not frantic. Not friendly. Almost official. Harry swallowed hard and reached for the handle. Jessica lunged forward and caught his arm. Stop. Listen to me. You don't open that door unless you know who's behind it. Harry twisted free, his breath shallow. What if it's Markus? What if he came to explain? What if? Jessica cut him off sharply. Markus wouldn't come here. Not after what Beaumont said. And Harry, men like Beaumont don't let loose ends walk freely. If Markus was close to the truth, he's not knocking on your door. He's somewhere much worse. Harry froze. Jessica's voice softened, but her eyes stayed sharp. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm telling you the truth. Markus is either being watched, controlled, or silenced. But he's not the one knocking. The phone stopped ringing. Harry glanced down. Another text appeared. Open it. Not the file. The door. Harry's blood turned cold. Whoever was texting him was outside. Not just watching. Not just directing. Standing right there. Harry stepped back from the door instinctively, breathing too fast. Jessica leaned toward the wood, listening. She mouthed silently. Say nothing. But the person on the other side didn't wait. They spoke. And the voice that came through the door made Harry's entire body lock up. Harry, it's urgent. Open the door. It was Andrew's private assistant. A man Harry had met dozens of times. A man who handled Andrew's schedule, his calls, his hidden affairs. A man who should have been in London. Not Montecito. Not at 3 a.m. Not the exact moment Harry played Andre and Beaumont's conversation. How did he get here? Why was he here? Who sent him? Was he working for Andrew? For Beaumont? For Charles? Or someone else entirely? Jessica stepped backward, shaking her head fiercely. If you open that door, this game ends. And not on your terms. Harry whispered. Then what do I do? Jessica answered quickly, decisively. You stall. You observe. You don't let them in this house. Not yet. Andrew's assistant knocked again, louder this time. Harry, I know you're in there. I need to talk to you. This can't wait. Harry cleared his throat, steadying his voice. What is this about? A long pause. Then the assistant answered. It's about the video Markus sent you. The one involving Andrew. The one you shouldn't have seen. Jessica's eyes widened. Harry felt the floor tilt. The assistant continued. Harry, the footage was never meant for your eyes. You were never supposed to find out what happened that night. Harry's grip tightened on the doorknob. What happened that night? He demanded. Another pause. Then the assistant whispered through the door. Everything. Jessica closed her eyes, whispering, This is bad. This is very, very bad. Harry swallowed. What do you want from me? The assistant hesitated, then said the line that revealed the real reason he was there. Open the door, and I'll tell you who the alias was meant for. Harry's pulse spiked. Jessica grabbed his arm again. He's lying. They're baiting you. But then the assistant said something that made both of them freeze where they stood. It wasn't Andrew. Harry whispered. Then who? The assistant took a shaky breath. It was for someone much closer to the throne. The throne. Jessica gasped quietly. Harry's mind flashed to every senior royal he could imagine. William, Charles, someone in the line of succession, someone tied to the monarchy's future. But then the assistant delivered the blow. Markus wasn't sending you a warning. He was sending you a test. Harry felt his heart stop. A test? A test for what? Loyalty? Obedience? Control? Harry's voice cracked. Tell me who it was meant for. Silence. Total silence. Then the assistant stepped closer to the door, lowering his voice. The alias was connected to a meeting between Meghan and a royal you've spent years defending. Harry staggered back. Jessica whispered sharply, Harry, don't believe him. This is psychological warfare. But she didn't sound convinced. Not entirely. Harry's mind raced. A royal he defended. Someone he trusted. Someone whose reputation he fought for. Someone who might have used Meghan, or been used alongside her. Harry whispered, almost involuntarily, William. Jessica's face drained of color. But the assistant didn't confirm or deny. Instead, he said, this isn't the place to talk. Open the door, and you'll understand everything. Jessica grabbed Harry's shoulder. If you open that door, you walk into a trap you can't escape from. Harry felt torn in half. Trust his instincts? Trust Jessica? Trust the assistant? Trust nobody? And then, before Harry could decide, the assistant said one final sentence. A lot of people protected you from the truth, Harry. But I'm not one of them. Jessica's breath hitched. Harry's fingers tightened on the handle. Then the assistant whispered, if you want answers about that video, you need to follow the trail Meghan never told you existed. Harry's heartbeat thundered in his ears. What trail? The assistant answered. The trail that starts with her alias and ends with the royal she met in secret. Jessica grabbed Harry's arm again, voice urgent. Harry, don't. You're not ready for what comes next. The assistant knocked one last time. Open the door, Harry, or this truth will find you another way. Harry stared at the door, at the handle, at the wood, at the shadow under the frame, at the unknown that was seconds away. But when he finally reached toward it, only inches away from turning the knob, his phone buzzed again. Another message. From the anonymous number. 2 words. Don't open. Have you ever been pulled in 2 opposite directions at the same time? One voice telling you to step forward. Another whispering that stepping forward is suicide. That's exactly where Harry stood frozen. The assistant's voice behind the door urging him to open it, and that chilling text on his screen telling him the opposite. Don't open. 2 commands. 2 threats. 2 invisible players fighting for control over a moment Harry didn't understand. Jessica watched him, eyes wide, breath shallow. She knew what Harry didn't yet fully grasp. Whichever voice he followed would align him with one side of a war he didn't even know he was part of. And once he aligned himself, there was no going back. Harry swallowed hard, hand still trembling above the doorknob. The assistant knocked again, softer now, more calculated. The sound echoed through the foyer like a ticking countdown to chaos. Harry, the assistant called through the door, if you don't open this now, you're making a very dangerous choice. Jessica stepped between Harry and the door, her voice low but razor-sharp. He's bluffing. Harry wasn't sure. The tension inside him was building like a pressure cooker. The assistant wanted in desperately, yet the unknown texter, who somehow had perfect timing, wanted the door to stay shut. It was a tug-of-war between 2 dark forces. Who did he trust less? He backed away. Jessica exhaled shakily. Good. Now listen. We need to talk about Markus. Harry's head snapped toward her. Why? Beaumont is the one running this. Andrew is tangled in it. The alias involves someone else entirely. Why are we going back to Markus? Jessica stared at him with a seriousness that made Harry's skin prickle. Because Markus isn't who you think he is. And he didn't send you that video as a threat. He sent it because someone forced his hand. Harry frowned. Forced? How? Jessica hesitated. Her throat tightened. Her eyes flicked toward the hallway, as if expecting Meghan to appear at any second. He was cornered, she said, dragged into something he tried to walk away from. Markus didn't want to be part of this anymore. He tried to burn bridges. He tried to disappear. He tried to cut all ties, including with Meghan. And that made him dangerous to the people who wanted the alias buried. Harry grabbed onto the nearest chair as anger crept through him. Meghan told me Markus used her, manipulated her. She said he was toxic. Jessica exhaled, long and heavy. Harry. Meghan blamed Markus because it was easier than blaming herself. The words hit Harry like a blow. Jessica continued before he could respond. Markus was the one who protected her. He got her into rooms she wanted access to. He navigated people who could elevate her career. He cleaned up messes. He handled introductions. He helped her reinvent herself. Harry looked away, jaw clenched. He also, Jessica added. covered for her when she used that alias. Harry's head snapped up. Are you saying Markus helped create it? No, Jessica said. He helped bury it. Harry's blood turned cold. Because burying something means it was dangerous enough to hide. Jessica took a shaky breath. And he paid the price for protecting her. Harry sat down hard. Jessica continued, her voice trembling with something like guilt. You don't understand how much pressure Markus was under. Meghan's rise wasn't natural, it was curated. People with power took interest in her. They saw a potential asset. A potential gateway into American political and media circles. Markus thought he could manage it. Control it. Keep her safe. So what happened? Harry asked. Jessica's eyes softened, unexpectedly. She cut him out. Harry frowned. Why? Because she couldn't control him anymore. Because he knew too much. Because he helped build a version of her she didn't want you to see. Harry felt a burn in his chest. Jessica moved closer. And then she replaced him. Just like that. Overnight. Markus was out. Harry whispered. Meghan never mentioned any of this. Of course she didn't, Jessica said quietly. She didn't want you asking questions. Questions about the alias. About who it was meant for. About the night everything changed. Harry's breath hitched. The night in the video? Jessica nodded slowly. That night was supposed to be a networking introduction. Nothing more. Markus arranged it. He didn't know the room was wired. He didn't know people were watching. And when Meghan got caught on camera speaking to the wrong person using the alias, they blamed him. Harry leaned forward. Who blamed him? Jessica looked him dead in the eyes. The same people who are targeting you right now.